grand tour. Step into the grand tour. Dragon Ball.
Magic. It's happening, folks. My name is Josue, and in less than 1 week, we're getting one of the biggest announcements in Dragon Ball history. Well, at least according to the leaks. Now, I'm sure by now, if you're clicking on this video, you probably already heard of these leaks, but I'm talking about Dragon Ball Magic. Let's do a brief rundown. There's going to be a new series that's premiering only on Crunchyroll that's going to have Goku turning into a kid with Supreme Kai as they go on this intergalactic adventure through the cosmos to track down the demon that turned them into kids into the first place. It's supposed to take place canonically before the end of Z, and I really just needed to get some of my thoughts out before it gets too late. Obviously, the elephant in the room is that this sounds really similar to Dragon Ball GT, which is leading all of us to believe that this is Toriyama's own take on Dragon Ball GT. Like, what if he just took over and it was his from the beginning? I'm sure Toriyama didn't really have much of a say for GT when it was first coming out either, so it's a perfect opportunity, I guess, for him. And with GT's relatively poor reception, it's actually pretty interesting that both Toriyama and Toei feel kind of confident in revisiting some of those ideas. Goku turning back into a kid was already a pretty unpopular thing to do. But let's talk about what Dragon Ball Magic could mean to the overall Dragon Ball landscape. Goku and Supreme Kai, it's going to be pretty much just the two of them with maybe some guest appearances from other characters. So I want to talk about who or what other characters we may be seeing in this series. Are we going to see Vegeta? We're going to see Piccolo? We're going to see Beerus? I mean, these are characters that kind of all make sense as to why they would appear. Like Beerus, for example, he has an incentive to appear in this series and kind of join them on the crew, since Supreme Kai, well, if Shin dies, then Beerus dies as well, and he can't really afford to let that happen. And you also got somebody like Broly, right, who's also staying with Beerus on his planet at the time of this, where we are right now in Super. So he probably needs to join them as well. I'm sure he can't really just stay in Beerus' planet by himself. That could be a disaster. And the demon who turned Goku this way has to be some level of strong, which is already intriguing enough for Vegeta to want to join in. And it's a demon. And the only character that we know right now who's still relevant that has any sort of attachment to demons is Piccolo. He is the son of the Demon King after all. Maybe this is the opportunity for us to finally explore what that title actually means. What does it actually mean to be the Demon King? We didn't even see any demons. Drum and Tambourine were retroactively made to just be Namekian, not demons. So what is a Demon King? And Deborah's gone, so he doesn't count. And with this being an intergalactic adventure, that's a weird thing to say. We don't really understand how far or how powerful this demon really is, how far he can go. What if this is a really great opportunity for Goku and Shin to start traveling between universes? Goku can visit Sadala or even join up with the Pride Troopers. We only see characters from these other universes in tournament arcs when they had to fight against each other. We don't see Kaba in Dragon Ball Super unless he literally needs to fight somebody from Universe 7. So this could actually be the perfect opportunity for, instead of some sort of conflict between Goku and these other characters, we could actually see them finally join up, team up together. Goku can finally see a different side of Jiren. Goku can finally see a different side of Kale, of Khalifa. Khalifa? Am I just saying her name? Do I not know her name? Khalifa, Kefla. You know, Goku doesn't need to fight these characters, though. That's what I'm trying to get at the end of the day. Like, he doesn't need to go fight them anymore. He can just join up with them, team up with them, explore that relationship a little bit deeper. It's actually a pretty cool way to flip that idea on its head. But if this series takes place directly before the end of Z, that must mean that magic must take place already after Goku dealt with this Black Frieza situation. On top of that, the manga has been sort of hinting at another tournament of power, so that must also mean that we already dealt with that by the time of magic taking place. And with that assumption out of the way, we must assume that by now, by this point, Goku must have perfected Ultra Instinct in his own way, right? Goku, when he turns into a kid, should still probably have some form of Ultra Instinct, left in the tank in him. Goku must still, even after Goku turns into a kid, he must still know some level of Ultra Instinct. Pretty pissed off if that wasn't the case, actually. And if Dragon Ball Magic is Toriyama's own take on Dragon Ball GT, this technically is the perfect place for Super Saiyan 4 to finally be canon, but with perfected Ultra Instinct, what would be the point? It sucks because we finally have been seeing Toriyama really embrace some of our favorite non-canon elements back in the past, right? Like Broly, for example. Everyone loved Broly, but he was never canon. Gogeta in the same movie finally became canon. Elements of the baby saga in GT was kind of explored also in the Granola arc. Like Toriyama's finally seeing what we loved in these non-canon movies, non-canon shows, and is finally turning it canon, sort of like what Star Wars is doing with all of those Legends material, right? I'm sure he's seen how much we all collectively love Super Saiyan 4. This is the perfect opportunity for Super Saiyan 4 to finally become canon. Why do we need it? Super Saiyan 4, yeah, sure, it's very powerful in its own right. Like, I get it, right? I understand. And especially full power Super Saiyan 4 and Limit Breaker. That's definitely one of the strongest transformations we've literally ever seen in this entire franchise. It can go toe-to-toe with Ultra Instinct Sign, and even Super Saiyan Blue Evolved. I mean, this is a juggernaut of a transformation, but it's unfortunately still not on par with the perfected Ultra Instinct. Now, all of this information comes from Dragon Ball Heroes, and Dragon Ball Heroes is not canon. By what we saw just in Dragon Ball GT, Super Saiyan 4 is nothing compared to Ultra Instinct. So if Toriyama were to go ahead and try to make Super Saiyan 4 canon, he's gonna have to revamp it in some sort of way, make it a lot more stronger, just something that'll make it relevant in the series, Every relevant character has been getting their own sort of transformation, their own specific, unique transformation. Gohan, Beast. Goku, Ultra Instinct. Vegeta, Ultra Ego. Piccolo, Orange. Perhaps another character can utilize Super Saiyan 4 and make it their own. The only character that comes to mind is Broly. Gohan has specifically stated in the manga that he wants to go down the path of being human. He wants to explore what that means to him, transform in that regard. Broly makes sense because, well, Goku and Vegeta are already past using Super Saiyan transformations. The only character left is Broly. He's the only Saiyan left that can use this. Goten and Trunks are just not there yet, in my opinion. Not to mention that his wrathful transformation is already utilizing the Great Ape to an extent. By all means, Super Saiyan 4 can just be a transformation of that, similar to what Beast is to Ultimate Gohan. But nonetheless, no matter what, Ultra Instinct still reigns supreme, which means that Toriyama just needs to make Super Saiyan 4 make sense. That's if he were to adapt Super Saiyan 4, but this is the perfect opportunity. I can't imagine another moment in the series to do it, except for this sort of retelling of Dragon Ball GT. Now the question is, will Toriyama adapt other elements of Dragon Ball GT into Dragon Ball Magic? Evil Dragon Balls leading to Omega Shenron? Unfortunately, I doubt that'll happen. The idea, the concept is so fire, kind of like having all of the wishes that were made throughout the entirety of the Dragon Ball franchise going against them, like them finally seeing how selfish some of these wishes are. I mean, come on. Bulma's been using the Dragon Balls for purely cosmetic reasons lately. The first ever wish in Dragon Ball that we saw was specifically just for panties. Now, I know Oolong did it for a very specific reason. He did it to save the Earth from Pilaf, but it was for panties. Now these wishes, the humans, the Saiyans, all the characters in Dragon Ball have gotten a little bit too used to using the Dragon Balls for their own selfish desires. Piccolo just used it in the superhero film, in the superhero arc, to get stronger. Having the Shadow Dragons be a part of this, being a part of the Dragon Ball mythos, but canon, just makes a lot of sense. It's such a cool story that you can really wrap into all of this, but there's just no way. There's no shot. It just, in my head, in my opinion, I just don't think it makes sense. That sort of story deserves something a lot longer than what Dragon Ball Magic is supposed to be, which is only roughly, I think, 15, 16 episodes. And it just seems like they're going for a much lighter tone if they're going to go for Kid Goku, Kid, and Kid Shin. That's just a really dope story, and I just really can't see how that's going to tie into chasing a demon on this adventure. It just seems more reminiscent of the beginning of Dragon Ball GT, those first episodes, than the last of it. The ending of it, whatever, you get what I'm saying. other GT stories like Super Android 17, I doubt it. Like 17 is now a Z Warrior. Like that's not gonna happen. And like I mentioned before, the baby part of the story was kind of already adapted in a way. Some of those elements were adapted into the Granola story in Dragon Ball Super, so it's not going to happen. The only thing that would make sense is that part, and I don't think that's going to be seen here. Since Goku is an adult again by the end of Z, we probably already know the ending in that regard. Goku is going to turn back into an adult by the end of Dragon Ball Magic. We don't see Shin, though, during the end of Z, so maybe he stays a kid. Hope not. The ultimate question is just, what's the point of all of this? I'm gonna say the same thing that I think everyone is kind of thinking, that there's just, it doesn't feel like there's any meaning behind this. And I know a lot of Dragon Ball content doesn't really need to have meaning, but there's no there's no magic. That's ironic. What does Dragon Ball Magic contribute to the entirety of Dragon Ball as a whole? Right now, it's absolutely nothing. I hope they can prove me wrong. I hope when I see the trailer, when I finally start watching Dragon Ball Magic, I'm like, holy crap. There's so much love. There's so much energy that's really being put into this. I can see why this was made. And on top of that, at least according to the leaks, the anime is going to look a little bit more similar to what Dragon Ball looked like in the 90s. And we all know that Dragon Ball in the 90s was a lot better looking than what we have now in Dragon Ball Super. And that's me saying something, because I still love how Dragon Ball Super looks like, at least in the Tournament of Power. But 90s Dragon Ball, Chef's Kiss, Reign Supreme, or Dragon Ball Magic could look like that. At least it has that going for it. Story-wise, though, I just am struggling to understand what would reel an ordinary fan into this. It doesn't seem fun. I'm turning Goku into a kid just does not feel like the natural progression of Dragon Ball as a whole. It was always meant to be about passing the torch down, the story of generations. From Master Roshi teaching Goku, from Goku having Gohan, from Gohan now having Pan, who was a major character, a major focus, and superhero. And at the end of Z, we finally see Oob, who's meant to be the leader of that next generation. It's always meant to be about passing the torch. Having another series focused on Kid Goku, going right back to the beginning of Dragon Ball. It was like a just retroactively messing what we were all building up for. And that's not all that exciting. Again, I hope Dragon Ball Magic can change my mind. I hope when I see it, I get it, I'll love it. But just doesn't make a lot of sense. Why not give us Dragon Ball Super Season 2 by now? We already have 2 full arcs that they could adapt. We've literally been asking for that for years, and yet we get this instead. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I know there's some legal issues and who owns the ownership for the anime production of Super. Don't quote me, I could be completely BSing that right now. I'm not really entirely sure about that. I just know we'd prefer that over Dragon Ball Magic. But hopefully it's the best series I've ever seen in my life. But we're not going to find out until October 12th. So until then, I'll catch you.